Now, the prepping and the painting is done. That's a spot where I recommend you take your time and try to do the best you can. So now, without further ado, here is one of the floor pans. And I'm fairly disappointed in its fitment. It really just kind of doesn't fit that great up there. It's kind of, I don't know if it's kind of good around the wheel well there, but it's really tight back in here. It's really scraping tight in here. And then over on this side, we're scraping on the wheel well here and here. So I'm going to be needing to do some trimming on this rear one. Now when it comes to installing these, you've got about 4 possibilities. You can glue it or caulk it. You can weld it in with spot welds. You could screw it in with some types of screw or bolts, or you could pop rivet it. I'm going to be going with pop rivets because they're fun, they're durable, and you can get them in aluminum so they won't rust. A lot of people are going to be recommending to weld it in, but I think that that's a fairly lousy idea because you destroy any paint in the area of the weld, and then you're going to have to clean the weld and paint it. But see, you've welded it right here, you're not going to be able to paint in behind the weld because it's not welded. Meanwhile, with a rivet right here, you drill a hole and the paint stays mostly intact. Now, the area that you rivet, immediately around the rivet, it is going to damage the paint a little bit, but you can go and paint around it and seal. You can also seal in between the metals that you're riveting together with a glue. With welding, you can't do that because it'll catch fire. I've done welding in the past on other body panels, and in the end it just makes more of a mess than anything because the paint catches fire, and then you have the fire spreading all over your panel and the spatter, and it makes an absolute mess. So I would advise against welding it in. So I'm going to be marking this and doing some trimming, and then figuring out how to drill the holes and do some pop rivets. The trimming is finished. This one just needed it in those areas I had mentioned. The front two fit a lot nicer. The only trimming that was required was the little notch there and here. Those are for the front driver and passenger seat belts by the center console. Those, you don't want to try to remove them because you'll just break them. So it's easier to just cut that little notch. I should mention another thing. These are galvanized pans. So another thing, along with welding them in, welding the galvanized, you're going to be burning that zinc, and that's not good for you to breathe. So that's another strike against welding them in, which is why I'm going to continue to be pop riveting them. Another thing to note, I haven't tried this, but from what I've read, you can't spray paint galvanized. Even though I think I have spray painted galvanized, apparently it doesn't work good. So I am brushing on Rust-Oleum undercoating onto these. I'm not exactly recommending you do that because I'm not sure how well this is going to work, but so far it's going pretty good. Maybe by the end of everything I'll be able to give you an update on that. It's going in. I've got it riveted to the frame on the driver's side. I chose these 1/8 inch diameter, 3/8 inch long rivets. They seem to be doing good. That's a smaller size, so it's easier on the rivet gun. And so far things seem to be going good. There are some extra holes that are going to need filling. But anyways, my process here was I took this Gorilla, this monkey construction adhesive, and laid that down on the perimeter. And then I carefully set the floor in to not smear it. And then I went underneath. Well, I put this board and that brick on for a little bit of weight, and I went underneath and drilled the holes up through the frame, through the metal, so that you can see where I could see where I need to drill on the frame. And I would drill a couple holes and then do a couple rivets. And everything's lining up pretty good so far. Now the inside, I'm just going to go around the perimeter, drilling on the inside and riveting. Here's a view from underneath. You can see where some of the construction adhesive has gooed out, and the rivets going along the frame. And then over on the other side, you can see the new and the old. Another reason I'd recommend doing it from the bottom up is you got these brake lines here that you wouldn't want to accidentally drill from the top down and hit one of the brake and fuel lines. I guess it's one brake line, one fuel line, and then one bonus line of mystery. So anyways, it needs a few more around the edge, maybe some in this area where there was a little bit of floor left, but mainly along the edge now. And I already broke one drill bit, so I assume I'm gonna break at least 2 more on the front and probably at least 1 on the back. So we're looking at about 4 drill bits that this is gonna take, is my guess. So now what you do is you drill a bunch of holes around the perimeter. Hopefully you can do that pretty easily. If there's anywhere that doesn't line up good, try to beat it with a hammer to get the panels to sit tighter. I've also done holes along this perimeter and already have the rivets in. So then, after you drill your holes, you want to try to kind of peel the panel back a little bit and put some more of your glue down in there. And then, in case you don't know what a rivet gun does, basically, here's your rivet. It's 2 parts. There's the part I'm holding and then the other part. And then this ball end is on this part. The ball end gets pulled backward by the rivet gun, and that makes the other part spread out and locks it in. So to use it, you just open up the gun, put the rivet in, it's a little hole. Now you can put a little pre-tension on it so it doesn't fall out. Now I have been dipping the rivets in the sealer, which you probably don't have to do, but it doesn't hurt. And then you stick the rivet in the hole, which can sometimes be a little bit tight. You can pound it a little bit and wiggle it, and maybe try a different hand. Get it down in the hole, and then you just give this thing a squeeze. And sometimes you gotta give it 2 squeezes. And the shaft breaks off, and then it comes out of there. It's kind of stuck with the goo right now. then you move on and repeat. Pretty simple. This panel's only taken me about 2 hours, and that was with some extra time hunting for drill bits that I broke. So the passenger side went in pretty much exactly the same as the driver's side. I did use about 100 rivets on the front 2 pans, 100 total. And the rear pan was a pretty similar story. Take the wheels off and you can get under here to drill your holes along the frame for the rivets. Now I only riveted along one side of the frame rail and not along the other, because that side you can't really reach. As well as I riveted across the back here and some up here toward the front. Now you definitely need to watch in the middle, because your gas tank ends about here-ish. So in about this area is where your gas tank ends. So if you drill through in the middle of this to try to rivet to your existing floor or the frame in there, you're gonna be puncturing the gas tank. And the next step is going to be patching holes. These also got painted with the Rust-Oleum undercoating, and that seems to be doing well on here. It's really not scratching off. It seems to be sticking well. And I would say I used about 100 rivets in the front and about 50 on this back pan. Now that the pans are in, it's time to move on to patching. So to do this, you want to get some light gauge cardboard or foam board, and you look at your hole and basically just cut the cardboard to match the area. And the cardboard, you can bend it pretty easily, and if you have a hole like this, you don't need to go and get crazy. Just cut out a simple square and it'll fit right over it. So next is you need to take the cardboard over to your piece of metal, and I picked up this awesome piece of stainless at a garage sale for only $5. So you trace the cardboard onto the metal and then cut it out, and you get your patch pieces that you can rivet in.